Um, you're gonna start it. I'm tired.
You're tired? Brian, how can you be so tired? It was a great year. And you know what? We're starting off so strongly in the year 2024. Got some great games already so far. Uh Power World until it gets shut down by Nintendo. That's pretty great, though. Murder freaking cute Pokemon with guns.
Is
If they're
Power
already
World gonna
children,
be? Is that gonna be our 2024 game of the year?
it could be. We could have played it for the channel. It has multiplayer.
First off, we did it, Eric. We fucking did it. This fucking
We did.
experiment all year. We've made it to the end, even though it's still going to be going on. But the main conclusion to what this was is finally over, and we've wrapped up with probably one of the most impressive and most exciting years of gaming since some of these golden era years we talked about way
Yeah.
back when. So many great games, so many different genres, so many like just big important things too happened in gaming this year.
And
Um,
there's so many great games that we're not really just going to talk about our runner-ups and our game of the years. We're kind of going to go through a play by play in a sense, if you get my.
yeah.
um we're
We
basically
have
just gonna.
not played every game this year, by the way. Like
Oh,
obviously, Baldur's Gate 3, Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah, that joke's out. And then there's definitely ones I'm gonna bring up that I haven't played, and then there's ones Eric's gonna bring up that he hasn't played, or we're like in the middle of playing them. So we haven't played everything. I don't think that necessarily makes what our game of the years are like. Oh, well, this is our no. I think our game of the years are
this
they
is
are
my
our
game
game of the
of
year.
the year.
Game of the year. They are, but I definitely there are some games that Eric and I didn't get to. Again, we're busy people. We are trying to get all of freaking what's it called? All of our backlog stuff done. So
Yeah, we were kind of prioritizing that, but at the same time we weren't. um Brian, fun fact, this is be important later. A cool gamer just invited me to play Halo Infinite.
I was gonna say just what we shot, but this video's coming out before that video's coming out.
Honestly, like, there's games on here that people weren't expecting and they turned out amazing. There's games that we were looking forward to and they met up to expectations. And I mean, there's plenty of games on here that suddenly just showed up out of nowhere, and here they are. We're happy to talk about them.
So we are just gonna go through month by month. So the upsetting part, well, it's not upsetting. I think it's funny. So I'm looking through right now, and I'm not saying nothing came out in these first couple weeks of January, but I really think the first game that
Stop.
comes into mind, yeah, a good stop is a game that is a good thing because we get a new IP, but it's a bad thing because of how bad it was. And it's Forspoken.
uh,
Which was a game that came out, which again, I'm one of those kudos. Try something different, but
Stop.
sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah. Remember how we just said stop? Stop saying this. Don't put out products like this that don't work.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, we didn't play it, but it is what it is.
Um,
Continuing. Oh,
yes.
uh,
Hi-Fi Rush
yeah.
drop. You were talking about, some games just came out of nowhere. It was slightly leaked before the director, the developer direct, and then we got to see it, and then it said it's coming out today.
And
So
we all said, "Oh shit!" And then you played it, and we're like, "Oh shit, this is a really good game."
mhm.
Um, like, suddenly was not expecting that.
Dead Space, the
Yeah, that's
remake,
big
the
remake at the end of the
remaster
month.
remake that we were waiting on came out.
Yeah, it was a good time. It kind of just dropped though at the end of the day, and everyone kind of forgot about it after that. And it's kind of womp womp.
Metroid Prime Remaster came out in February. That was a big deal. Again, that's kind of another one of those in hindsight, people don't talk about it like that, like Dead Space, but it was a thing at the time that was big.
Yeah, where everyone's waiting for Metroid Prime 4. So here you go. Uh, the big release though in February, which was the biggest game of the year, which I find crazy to think
I'm
about.
glad you were just about to get to it. That was my next game.
Hogwarts Legacy. we are not really Harry Potter guys here. It's cool if you are, cool if you're not. Biggest game of the year, sold highest amount of pre-orders. Uh, Crazy to think that something beat out Call of Duty, but I guess Harry Potter, I guess, would be the thing. But that's probably the biggest game to come out of February, to be honest, though.
The only other thing that I'm looking at is the new
PSVR.
that came out. So that was a whole nother thing. So
it exists, but like they're not doing anything with it at the same time.
yeah. So let's see. Like there are some games in March, like Wo Long came out from Team Ninja. That was a big hype. Saints and Sinners. Is that the really bad Walking Dead game that everyone joked about?
No. That's late on the year.
Okay.
There's one major release that happened in March, though.
Oh yes, I was getting there. The Last of Us Part 1 on PC.
Yep, that's it.
Hey, that was a failure. No, Resident Evil 4. More again, remakes. Oh, Dredge came out at the end of the month too. I want to mention that because I still want to play it. That's one that I'm sad I haven't gotten to, and I heard it's really good.
Resident Evil 4 remake.
Resident Evil 4.
You would think you're like, okay, we're kind of tired of these remakes, Capcom, like, but then you play it and you're like, this actually is contender for potentially beating the original game in quality. It's kind of scary, like, because that first game, I've talked about it a few times already, but high standards, and then this remake, above and beyond. Let's jump into April. It sounds like, which
I still have to get to Resident Evil 4, which is upsetting too, because that was one that I really wanted to try and jump into, but unfortunately I couldn't. Dead Island 2 finally came out. That was kind of like a joke, and then everyone was nervous it was going to be really bad, and it kind of came out and people said, it is what it is, and I'm like, okay, that's good. At least it wasn't like garbage.
Yeah, it's not a hot mess.
No. Holy
Unlike
crap.
other things came out at the end of this month.
Oh, I was stressed. I'm like, every game that has been important in these months, I'm like waiting for it to show up, and then it finally shows up. Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and also speaking of PC ports as well.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, like, Survivor is a great game, except if you were playing it on PC. This was a problem in the industry as well this year. We'll talk about more problems that happened this year as well. But one of the major problems that was consistently happening was terrible PC ports.
Yes.
Listen, guys, I get it. Consoles are more easier to make for, mainly because, everyone prefers having a console than a PC because, you don't have to worry about upgrading it or, having to learn keyboard commands. You just have a controller and all that stuff. But people prefer their PCs because they prefer the higher experience of playing it with the higher end graphics and the crazy settings they can get. They love mods and all that shit. I don't know what happened at Respawn. But the performance for Survivor on PC, oof. Big yike.
So you're saying it was barely surviving?
Well, the funny thing is, too, besides that pun, was the performance wasn't even that great on the consoles to begin with, too.
No.
I normally play my games now for the frame rate. I prefer 60 frames than the higher quality graphics. Either version of the game was not playing well. It felt like I was playing like a last gen console game, but not even higher res. It was just a last gen game.
This was also one of those games that we got a fun trend of this year of, hey, go to Twitter. We're so sorry you had to pay $70 for our game. Clearly we knew it was an issue, but we didn't know it was an issue, and we need to fix the game and the quality of the game.
But we're not going to do anything for you for being there for day one and things like that.
Nope.
And yet they want to release this game on the last gen consoles.
Well, it's okay because if you can see Erik's opinion on this game on our backlog video, because I think this is a great transition into May. goated best game of the year, Redfall came out.
Oh God, the
In
beginning of
May.
uh
Everything that Erik just said, great frame rate, it runs so smooth, so much to do.
much to see. So what's wrong with taking the back streets? Everything in that game, I'll tell you that.
Man of Medan on Switch came out. I'm only mentioning that because Man of Medan, duh.
Of course.
I wouldn't mention it any other way.
Really, there was only one. Again, it's like there's just a big hitter every month. It seems like, in a good way and a bad way.
Okay. Well, before
Oh,
we get into that, can I put out some like little indie games that were pretty good before?
I mean, absolutely. We love our indie game friends.
Planet of Lana, which I actually did a playthrough of, came out at the end of May. It's like Limbo. It's that kind of artistic style, limited storytelling. It's great. And then Warhammer 40K Bolt Gun. This game rocks. This game is so cool. It has like a retro style. It's a boomer shooter. It's awesome. It's if you definitely see it on sale, definitely pick it up. Warhammer was not a series I even really knew or cared about, and I heard so much about this game. I played it, and now I want to play more Warhammer games because it was so cool.
All right, enough talking about the silly little
I'm like
game.
Henry Cavill. Warhammer.
Tears of the Kingdom, one of the biggest weights in recent gaming history, followed probably behind Cyberpunk, Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. However, turned out better than both those games, I would say. Tears I haven't beaten yet. Brian has, which is funny to think. Uh, but
Oh,
yeah, but I'm telling you this, you wouldn't believe that this game is running on a Switch,
no.
but what they do to the Switch is amazing. With the processing engine and things like that. Why they charge $70 for it? That's a different story. I think the whole idea of marking up games now is kind of silly, especially on the Nintendo Switch, which is will be 8 years old this March. We have 1 month; it'll be 8 years old. Why are you charging $70 for a console that old? But Brian, you finished it. No spoilers, but what are your opinions on it for a little bit?
I mean it.
Because you were the biggest fan of Breath of the Wild. I know that.
Yeah, I mean, my whole thing is everything that I didn't like in Breath of the Wild was the exact opposite in Tears of the Kingdom. It felt like there was more to do. I think the flow of the story was a lot more interesting. The way that I felt like Breath of the Wild, I understood. Like I've talked about that when you mentioned it as an honorable mention that year. I see what the game is, and it's one of those things where even though I don't like it, I don't think it's bad. It's one of those, it's not for me. But it felt like it was way too much of a, I have to go find and do what I need to do. This felt like a good mix of it kind of led you in certain directions. You kind of got to do what you wanted to do. But a lot of the stuff you run into, it's not like you have to go out of your way to find certain things. Like there's stuff everywhere. The Sky Isles, the deep dark dungeon stuff is really cool. Again, like the way that the map is laid out, there's so many more like things to do on the map than Breath of the Wild. And it just, a lot of the things people don't like about those games with like the weapons and the stamina and all that stuff, I didn't really care about because it makes the game more unique and interesting. And I think all the new powers are really cool as well too. It just felt more like I even told Erik, I was messaging him while I was playing the first few hours of it, like the tutorial stuff, and I said, even these tutorials make me go, oh, this is more interesting to me than Breath of the Wild. So yeah, again, such an impressive game. But one game a month, Lord of the Rings fucking Gollum came out. Fucking rude
Uh,
this month.
uh,
Anyways, we're gonna go
let's
into
go to.
Street Fighter 6.
I was about
What?
to say, starting off
Yeah.
punching.
We did not play it, but again, we talked about it. People who love different kinds of game genres, you had some good shit too, because there's obviously some more fighting games we'll get into, but Street Fighter 6 was one of them. Everyone said it was so great, and that's
Yeah,
awesome.
apparently the best fighting game of the year, which I've only played one, and we'll talk about that in a couple months.
Diablo 4 on 6 Hail Satan.
So we've played Diablo 4 on this channel, and we had a good time playing it. When we play it separately, I want to kill myself.
We have very different opinions on the game. I don't love it, but I enjoy it more than Eric does.
I think it's so boring and monotonous when you're playing by yourself. If you have a friend with you or a squad, absolutely a great time. But I just am so bored playing it by myself.
We're gonna have to play it again.
Yeah.
Sunday Part 2. That's the only other game besides fucking what's it called? Minecraft. It was mainly, I think, Diablo and Street Fighter that were the two big ones.
Yeah. Like, it was decently big. Like, again, if you're into that stuff. July. All right, cool.
Insert Jade talking about how her favorite game of the year is Pikmin 4.
Hello, folks of the Warren Rascals. It's Jade. Pikmin 4, best game of the year. Everything about it is perfect. The levels were fun. The dog was fun. Finding all the weird guys was fun. That's all I got. Best game of the year, Pikmin 4.
Congratulations, Jade. You made it into the channel with a nice, full-on 45-minute digestion into Pikmin 4. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Okay.
Pikmin. Remnant 2 came out at the end of the month. We played that game too. I kind of like it. I think it reminds me a lot of The Ascent, where it's like the whole story and the talking stuff. I go, I want to shoot, boom, boom, boom. I want to shoot stuff. That's when it's fun.
Yeah. July though did end with another game though that was decently big that I still haven't beaten yet.
Oh my god, I'm looking.
Final Fantasy 16.
Serious? I'm literally scrolling right now. I don't even see it.
Was it in June?
Oh shit! Fuck! Did we? I think it was June. I think it was.
I was thinking it was July. That's why. We'll just edit this and then go back.
Oh, it was. No, we got to admit to our mistakes. There was one more in June. Damn.
There was one more. Yeah, Final Fantasy 16, or as my old roommate would like to call it, Devil May Final Fantasy 16. I'm playing through this right now. I'm not fully completed with it yet.
Water. Hold on. Keep talking.
No, you're good. I'll talk. Or I'll cough. Great action, great gameplay. I think that Clive is a very interesting character. I don't think the plot is like super interesting at this time. I don't know how many hours I'm in yet, but I'm enough where I've already done one of those stupid cool kaiju battles, as I'll call it. I think that was epic. It doesn't make any fucking sense, but it doesn't matter. But I think I'm having a great time with it. Yeah, and I'm glad it came out. I hope they keep making games more like this, where they just, it's RPG-esque, but we do a little bit more action. I do wish there were a little bit more of the RPG elements in it, more so for a Final Fantasy. We'll see what happens. The next Final Fantasy game to drop will be at the end of next month, or end of this month, excuse me. Time of release. Final Fantasy 7. Part 2, baby. Oh. I don't like the way
I took longer because while I was bent over getting water, May just wanted to stand on my back, so I had to get her off me. And she didn't fucking get off.
Anyway, July, otherwise, didn't really have much going on.
That was really July. Baldur's Gate 3 opens August, and then nothing else mattered for the rest of the year, apparently.
Oh, yeah, not the rest of the year. We are anxiously waiting to afford, I should say, our physical editions of Baldur's Gate 3, because not that we were worried it was going to be digital only, but it was started out on PC, then a month later dropped to PS5. Had to wait to the end of the year for it to come to Xbox. But when they announced that they were working on the Xbox version, they announced that there would be physical versions with like special goodies and shit like that.
It's only $100 total. It's 80 plus $20 shipping, and it's like a good deal for all the shit that you're getting. And also the fact that I knew they were going to announce it as a shadow drop, and then they won, and then the person that's job it was to remember it was like, shit, I forgot to say that it's shadow dropped on Xbox.
It's like Jeff Keighley was like rushing him off the stage or something.
Yeah, I wonder. Same day.
But
Yes.
August had some couple other games in there too.
I was gonna say Overwatch 2. Quake 2 Enhanced Edition. That we played that as well. That came out the same day. What game were you gonna mention, or games were you gonna mention?
Well, there was 2 games I was gonna quickly mention. Apparently, winner of best freaking action game of the game of the year is fucking Armored Core 6.
Mm-hmm.
Soft said we're taking a break from our Souls games and we're gonna go back to our mech games.
Just a stupid shoot 'em up. Da 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 da.
Da, 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 da. And also a game that I haven't gotten to play, but I've been very interested in wanting to play because it just reminds me of the 360 PS Immortals of Avium.
Mm-hmm.
It looks stupid. It looks fun. You fire magic like a gun, though. You're like, I have Doctor Strange in this house.
Doctor Strange in this house. Doctor Strange in this house.
September. We started off disappointed, would you say?
Well, I'm not really going to get into the discourse because my whole opinion is Starfield is what we're talking about. I'm just one of those people where I'm tired of hearing both sides. It's one of those, the people that think it sucks, shut up. The people that think it's amazing, shut up. Like, I'm done. I'm so done with it. Like, I'm just trying to play it in my peace. I'm about like 12 hours in. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's one of those weird conundrums of like, I didn't really go in with high expectations anyways, and I'm not feeling that, but I'm not like playing it going like how some of these people like, man, this is a game. And I'm just like, it's fine.
Yeah,
whatever.
Pronoun and you know,
we don't need to get people on that.
Yeah. All I know is I've only played it for like 2 minutes and I didn't even make it to the character customization screen. I will go back to it. I do enjoy my Bethesda games. It's just get rid of this stupid engine already, please. You're not doing yourself any favor, Bethesda.
Ugh. We have a day that Eric can definitely talk more about than me. Liza P and Mortal Kombat 1.
Yeah,
double reboot of Mortal Kombat.
So I've played a decent chunk of Mortal Kombat 1. I played the story mode, and they have the challenges afterwards. Don't play me online. I suck ass. I mean, you can play me online and you'll win. But Mortal Kombat 1's a fun time. I can say that. Story's a little whack, but that's a Mortal Kombat game for you. Liza P. If you were wanting your Souls-like experience and a spiritual successor to Bloodborne, besides the kart racing game, but they couldn't call it Bloodborne Racing anymore because Sony got on their ass. Liza P is where you're at. It's an interesting take on the Pinocchio story. It's tough as shit, but it's a lot of fun. I haven't beaten it yet, but I do have to say I very thoroughly enjoy it, and I'm just taking my sweet time with it because I know if I try to like play through for a whole day, I'm gonna get pissed off and things like that because I'm not great at Souls games. But yeah, that was probably my best game to come out of September was probably Liza P. Oh, October. Oh boy. Oh boy.
Whoa.
Wait,
we almost forgot about one game at the end of September. We got to say it at the same time. 3, 2, 1. Cocoon. Anyways, moving on to October.
That's all you have to say about Cocoon. We got it. Brian did a playthrough of it.
I did.
October. So didn't really start off like super strong until like the second week of October. That's when we got the newest Assassin's Creed.
Mm-hmm.
Mirage, I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be DLC for Valhalla, and then they said, no, we can make this a full-on game, and they said we're going to go back to base because they already tried that once with Origins, and well, some people like Origins, some people don't, and well, some people like Mirage, and some people don't.
I mean, I told Erik this, and I don't know. I'm trying to remember if you knew it and you just got happy when I told you, or if you found out when I found out. But I learned that the guy who plays the main character is fucking Jim Carrey's assistant in Sonic the Hedgehog.
He's back.
I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah, they couldn't get a guy from Valhalla to reprise the character, I guess. I don't know if they contractual obligations, something like that. I don't know. Doesn't matter. We haven't played it. Probably won't play it for a while at least. I'm still behind on Assassin's Creed games, for God's sakes. But right after that, for me, I had a little bit of fun in between with Sonic Superstars. Anyway, next up, it was not good. Anyway,
well, I was gonna say the week before that, we got the long-awaited. We had Mortal Kombat 1, which was like a reboot of a series. We finally got the reboot of Forza, which again,
yeah,
one of those series that you kind of like, but you never play it that much, you know? Like I know we played Horizon, which we've already discussed how those Forza games are more my speed because it's more like there's a fun to it and an arcadiness to it.
I get that pun. More my speed.
I was talking about like speed, like that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Anyways, a game that I'm only gonna shout out one because rest in peace to Lance Reddick. He played Hellboy, and the game looked so interesting. And I heard it wasn't that good, and I'm not really surprised. It kind of made me sad, but I'm hoping. And again, I know this sounds shitty. I'm kind of excited if it goes on one of these streaming services because I do want to play it. It looks kind of cool.
Yeah, because it, and then they just nothing came out of it, and all of a sudden one day it's kind of dropped, and we're like, oh, okay.
So that was sad, but it's fine because right after that was probably one of the biggest 1-2 punches of the year with Spider-Man 2 and Alan Wake 2. Two games that I have not played. One game I've only played a bit of, and that is Spider-Man
Both
2.
these games I've played.
Oh, and Wonder. Super Mario Brothers Wonder also came out in this time too.
Also in there, which we both haven't played. But actually, I would like to play Wonder, which is not $70. It is $60. Sure, not make the new Mario game $70, Nintendo, but the game that everyone's been waiting for years will charge $10 more. So Spider-Man 2, we can talk about a little bit more so with Brian. Like Brian can give some input, not too much. It's a great game. It's just a shame that reflecting on it as someone that was stupid enough to beat the game, like fully complete it within 3 days of it coming out.
And I started playing it and I'm seeing all this shit and I'm like, how the fuck did you do? Like, I'm starting it and all this shit is unlocking for me and I'm like, what? How the fuck did Erik do this? Like, Jesus Christ. Like, holy shit.
A couple monsters. And this is during the time that I was working late nights, folks. I was coming home at past 2 a.m. I would just get home. I would order coffee to get delivered to my apartment from Wawa. And I would get breakfast as well. And I would eat that and drink coffee and try to stay awake. And I kind of regret that because I wish I would have spent my time more with it because then you have the advantage of that. But even so, like, even if I was able to, I'm like sitting back and I'm thinking, I'm like, I enjoyed my time. I'm glad I played it. I think that there are some very interesting character arcs with Peter specifically. But I just don't feel that like Miles was very like fleshed out. I feel like there was missed opportunities with some of the villains. I feel that some of the side quests are better than some points of the plot, which is kind of sad. Just because you have more doesn't mean that it makes it better, I guess I should say. I still prefer 2018 over it, but I'm not saying 2 is a bad game. Like, again, if I go back on it, it's like a solid like 8. Solid 8.
The one thing I've noticed, so again, I haven't played so much, but when I, playing the first one and playing Miles Morales, you get to those points where you're doing side missions or story missions, and it's like there's sort of a familiarity, right, of like the locations and whatnot. Let me just say, even though I'm not saying I love it so far, I am genuinely perplexed at how good Insomniac has made every story mission. It feels like just this, but like it feels like the structure of every mission is pitch perfect. They're all very long, and in a day and age where video games, they have to do all this extensive storytelling stuff to it does it in a really interesting way. There's still great gameplay, and it never feels like you're doing a story mission and you're like, yeah, I'm at that part of the map, and you don't feel you're in different parts of the map. You're going inside of the buildings. There's this and there's that. It feels like every single mission so far that I played, besides the ones that set up the side missions and shit, it feels like every mission is curated so good. Like it feels good to play. It has like that big budget around it.
Without spoiling the game, because this isn't a spoiler, do you have the symbiote suit yet?
No, I actually don't.
That's saying a lot, because I do think that the beginning sets it up really strong, and then it starts faltering.
Oh, really? That's sad.
Not after the symbiote, but more towards when Venom shows up. I do think it's great. It's just that there's plenty of other crap that's much better. Speaking of crap that's much better than Spider-Man 2, Alan Wake 2. Brian hasn't played it yet. Brian's waiting for this thing called a physical disc.
Yeah, you put it, like, you have it, and it has, like, a ring in the middle, and, like, you put it in your thing, and it goes, but who knows if we're gonna get it, because apparently Xbox is like, oh, okay, now we can just get rid of our fucking discs.
The decline of physical media. We'll go on this little tangent, because I'll talk about Alan Wake 2 in a little bit, because I platinumed it, so I have beaten it. But the decline of physical media has become a slight problem. Not because I don't think, the inevitable was coming. We've talked about this before as well with, physical and digital stuff. But this year really shook things up with games specifically being digital only, services taking away digital only things, like Sony dropping like things you have previously bought with Discovery, and it's too bad you purchased them. You just can't access them anymore, which I find ridiculous because I own it. But whatever. Poopy Soft has been talking about that. Sega, I think, has been talking about that recently too. And I'm like, guys, I get it. You want us to buy the same product again and again. That's not the way to do it. Anyway, Alan Wake 2, which is funny enough because Alan Wake 2 only is on the Epic Game Store on PC. That store fucking crashes. You can't play Alan Wake 2. Alan Wake 2, 13 years in the making, so worth the wait. Something you weren't even really expecting that it was going to be kind of worth. I mean, Remedy's talking about how their next game after Alan Wake 1 was supposed to be Alan Wake 2, but, congratulations with Microsoft. And then making a big enough game that they could get the funding for Alan Control. Here we are, 13 years later, and it just kind of blows people away that, this game from 2010 that people weren't really thinking about too much. They're like, oh, the Max Payne guy has made a new game, and the combat kind of sucks. But the story is very interesting, and I like these characters. And the mystery of the plot is really unweaving and cool like that. They just did that, but 10 times fuller. Very interesting. One day I hope Brian can play it.
Trust me, just because I'm not playing it, it's not also a anger or frustration. It's mainly because I have other stuff to catch up on and I'm not gonna spend money on it yet. Like I'd rather just wait to like buy it digitally if I have to do that. quick, I want to do a quick little mention of a game at the end of October, Josant, which was made by Don't Nod, which I actually just finished a few days ago. It is a sweet little indie game where it basically is just kind of a climbing simulator, but there's a lot more to it than that.
All right.
November,
November.
let's see, we got the RoboCop game came out. That was
I heard that was great. I heard it was silly fun. 360 PS3 game.
we got an All-Star Brawl 2, the Nickelodeon fighting game that was
Heard
a
much
thing.
better than the first one. It's a shame they cut the roster a bit, but they added new characters and improved older ones.
Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3.
Yeah, there's that.
Oh, I know what the Walking Dead game is now. Oh, I'm so fucking pissed. Kong Skull Island came out like in May or June, and I meant to mention that too. Fuck. God damn it.
May or June.
Yeah.
Gee, it felt like it came out towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
Like, so bad games kept popping up like that. Whereas Modern Warfare 3, the campaign is terrible. They just threw it together because they said we need to put out a Call of Duty game this year.
Yeah, Activision.
Yeah, well, it's okay. They're bought now, and now Microsoft just laid off part of their staff.
Yep. But it's okay, because on the one day we got Bluey, a Bluey video game. We got Walking Dead Destinies. Walking Dead Destinies, we love it. A Persona 5 Tactica, which is something Eric can talk about.
So
Super Mario RPG as well.
Yeah, I have beaten both those games. It was a nice double feature for me that day. Persona 5 Tactica, you know, love these guys. You can figure out why. But so they decided to make a like XCOM style strategy game. And it's really fun. It's super easy. If you play any type of strategy game like that, you're gonna beat the game perfectly fine. I think the story is very interesting, but I do agree with a lot of other people where why did the Phantom Thieves have to be there? Literally, you could have picked any of the other Persona casts. I freaking just made it an original game or something. Why did it have to be the Persona 5 cast? I can see how people are getting tired of them. Super Mario RPG. I've never played the original one, so when they announced that they were remaking it, I was like, great. I don't have to spend an arm and a leg to get a copy of it. Or apparently Brian just has a copy of it somewhere. But this is a nice little 10 to 12 hour RPG. Crazy to think about a 10 to 12 hour RPG, but it's so charming and so much fun. The characters are so cool and interesting, the new ones especially. I remember Gino. Can't remember the Cloud's name on the top of my head, but he is so cute. Oh, Mallow his name. I don't know why that popped in, but it was like I'm thinking of Cloud stuff. I think that the way that the RPG elements work, the combat system, yeah, I think it's great. The super moves that you can pull off, very cool animation. Just a fun little romp. Definitely worth your time. I would definitely, again, especially if you haven't played it before, check it out. And I'm glad Nintendo is like remaking and re-releasing their older like RPG Mario games, because now we're getting Paper Mario 1000-Year Door sometime this year on the Switch. There wasn't really much left in November, really, personally, I would say.
December was basically just Far Cry 9, Jake Sully.
Avatar, Poopy Soft back at it again with a game that immediately got thrown under away because it came out in December when no one gives a shit. And something Avatar related finally fails, and it's something we knew would fail to begin with when it was announced, to be honest.
Well, it's okay because the most important game of December also came out, and that game is actually legit not a game anymore the day before. The Ponzi scheme.
Biggest Oh, wow. We know Ponzi schemes.
we ran a fucking power wash just for that
Yeah.
reason. With that being said, we
What's
have
actually
not told each other what our games of the year are. And we had a conversation shooting our next video that's coming out after this about how if we knew what it was, and I feel like I have a very good guess. And Erik said he thinks it's between two specific games. He thinks it's one or the other. So, we're just gonna go.
it's
I have
2013.
3
So
runners
it's
up. Yes.
you're first this year. You're first this year. Yeah.
Yes. So I have 3 runners up. Um, these are in order. So it's 4, 3, 2. Number 4,
That's how good this year was. We got fucking multiple runners up.
I was gonna probably even do more, or if I could have done more, but unfortunately, this is what we get. Number 4 is Legend of the Zelda.
Legend of the
The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. I legit love this game. Like, it was actually so much more interesting than Breath of the Wild. And I'm not a big Zelda guy. Like, those aren't the games for me. Like, obviously, I know Erik's more into them, but this, I don't know what it was. I think it was just, I played Breath of the Wild and us doing our backlogs, and I was like, I really want to play Tears of the Kingdom because people are saying that it is so much better and it looks so much better. Number 3, the most fucking innovative puzzle game that I've played in so long, Cocoon. It's not a joke anymore. Holy shit, this game, my playthrough, if you watch it, I had a headache playing it because some of the fucking things that this game makes you do,
But a headache.
like, oh my god, it's gorgeous, and the way it looks is great, and it's fantastic. But let me just say, for days now, I have sat and there have been 2 games that have been fighting for what it could be. And I'm looking at them and I'm thinking to myself, okay, where am I at emotionally? Like, because this year was very interesting. And I will say, spoiler, it's not one of the high caliber games that everyone's probably talked about because, well, obviously I brought up Zelda already, but I was catching up on a lot of games and it just, I think a lot of it with me is just a feeling, and I will have these weird spurts of like, wow, this game is awesome, and like, this is a game nobody's really talking about, or it is, or it's underrated, whatever. And this game, it was fighting for what my game of the year possibly would have been as Erik disappears, right?
Not me disappearing.
There we go. He's back. Guess who's back? Um,
Who?
my runner-up is the recently played Jusant. This
Hey,
game fought with my game of the year because let me tell you right now, I played it at a time where, I mean, obviously this was recently, like a week ago, and it's the perfect game to play when you just kind of need to relax. It's like a good 3-hour game. Again, there's no combat or anything. There's no failure. It really is, joking aside, it really is just a climbing simulator, but the climbing mechanic is so unique and interesting and in depth. And the music is gorgeous and the artwork is gorgeous. And just the storytelling is kind of heartbreaking, but like also very beautiful. And I think it was something where maybe just the recency bias of it, and also just because of all the emotions I felt with my game of the year, because my game of the year is now, I don't know if this is what he thought it was going to be, but I think it's very obvious now what it is, because this is a game that, like everybody, shocked the world. And I was not really looking forward to playing it because it did not look like my thing. And clearly it really fucking was. And it is Tango Gameworks Hi-Fi Rush.
I had a feeling it was that one.
Like, I well, first off, I played this game at, like, again, kind of like with Jasant. It was at like the right time where a lot of shit was going on in my life. And it was something where, you know, I was going into it, seeing the artwork, seeing how it was, and I'm like, the art style does not really look like my thing. It looks kind of like Sunset Overdrive, but a little more kind of anime style. And then I was just not into rhythm games. Rhythm games are fun and all, but I'm like, in a combat storytelling, what? Like, what? And I immediately, once you get the hang of it, I was like, okay, this is interesting. I will say some of the gameplay you are watching that isn't maybe gameplay I used from like trailers and stuff. I was a little rusty recording. I was like, ooh, I need to like really get back into this. But I started getting into it. And, you know, the characters I was getting into, and then I don't know what it was, but just the finale of the game really struck a chord with me. And I don't think it's perfect. I think some of the platforming stuff is a little wonky because of how your character moves. And again, the whole thing is to the beat. And like the fact that he kind of barely moves forward and it's a little annoying. And then I also think there could have been a few more like licensed songs for some of the boss battles or some of the other sections. But overall, I just I went into this game with low expectations, and I think that's maybe also part of it. And you know, it's a very simple story. You play a character named Chai, and he goes to this evil government facility, like manufacturer, and they give you a robot arm, and you're a reject. That's kind of how the whole story starts. They're chasing after you because you're a reject guy, and you start running into characters, and you run into this girl Peppermint, and she gets you involved in this whole conspiracy thing of we got to take these big bad guys down. And you start to meet these other characters along the way, and it becomes more fascinating and more interesting. And the thing that I love so much about this game is it's very much what you expect, but some of the spoilers and some of the plot twists, one, are kind of unexpected because they don't come across like, what? Like, it's just very natural progressions. Like, there's a character that is a part of your squad that I won't really get into, but that arc is actually very interesting. And I think it works. Like, I think it actually works. Like, the game is hilarious. And I don't even mean that as like, it's just funny. It is straight up fucking hilarious. The writing is so sharp. And in a game like this, it could come across as so grating or so annoying, but they just find the perfect dry humor, the over the top zaniness, and just the quirkiness. And again, coming from Tango Gameworks, who, you know, Evil Within, Ghostwire Tokyo, doesn't really fit those genres in terms of gameplay and in terms of tone. But it's cool that they were able to take what they do so well in other genres and like pull off in this one. And, you know, again, the number one mechanic, the beat mechanic. So when you are putting this robot arm on, or when you get it on, you accidentally have your MP3 player with you and it gets shoved into your fucking stomach. And then the whole game, you're playing to the beat. So, like, the whole game, you have this beat going on, and it's different songs. Obviously, there's licensed songs and boss battles for the most part. Um, but it's original music. And the whole time you start to learn combos. And again, when you first start playing, you're like, oh my God, this is going to be a headache. And then you just start to get to know it and you get new combos. And then you start to have, you know, like, Peppermint join you in battle, and you start to learn new things, and you go, oh, like this is fun. And there's a certain flow to it that I think is really unique and really interesting. I love the upgrade mechanic. I think the fact that you're getting gears to upgrade your stuff is great. I love when you walk into like NPCs, like the robot NPCs, especially the secret detective, which kind of is an Evil Within Easter egg, which I think is great. Um, your hideout you go to where you unlock stuff, you could change your outfits. Um, Again, every level definitely has a different vibe to it where it's either, you know, this is just the boss level, or this is just a platforming level, or this is like a big fighting level, or it's a mixture. I think the way that the story is told is really funny too, especially when you're done beating the game and then you go back, because there's certain inside jokes. Like, for example, if there's a certain character that's not involved in the story right away, and then you use them in the game, the characters are talking to you and they go, wait a minute, this is weird. How are they able to be here even though you haven't gotten to that part of the story yet? Like there's all these inside jokes that are so unique and clever. And then you start using that to your advantage to find your way to get forward in the level and then the secrets and whatnot. And then you think the game's over. Once the game's over, no, there's a whole secret ending that you can unlock, which I did. And it is a pain in the ass to do. The challenges you have to do are so difficult, but I finally got it. And the secret ending is so goofy and so funny. And it's just kind of perfect for this kind of game and the story and the world that it's telling. And again, it's the normal underdog story, but I just think with my expectations of it and the way that the game plays and how it looks and how it like there's really no bugs in the game. It runs really fucking smooth. Again, the music is good. Like it has like a great feel. You get a ranking every time you're done with a fight. You fight different kinds of robots and it's always changing. And then all of the boss battles are so different. There's kind of the normal 1, 2, 3 step ones. The character that I told you about, she gets involved in a way where you have to fight her, but it's not a real fight, and it's kind of really goofy. There's a lot of really interesting turns that this game makes, and again, like there's never a moment where it feels like it's doing something so different. It's just mixing a bunch of very weird genres together to make a great game, and I don't know. It's weird to me because I was really thinking for a long time, like, is this my game of the year? I don't know. Is it? And it just, I think I just have thought about it so much since I played it. And again, it was just a nice surprise. And it was something that made me feel like excited about gaming because every year we talk about what kind of game is our game of the year. Is it the genre defining game? Is it just a game we really got into? And I think as I've gotten older, I've wanted to, whatever game has been the game that I've actually been into is usually the game that I will put at that pedestal. And Hi-Fi Rush is that game, and it's just so weird to me. And then it's like when it came out, and the fact that it was the Shadow Drop game, which it was funny because I was shooting this footage and they had an anniversary shirt because it was the anniversary of the game, and so it said Shadow Dropped and it was Chai on the front. Um, but yeah, I don't know if there's really much to say. You unlock a lot of cool stuff at the end of it, like these like boss modes and like these other modes, and then there's obviously collectibles and stuff to get. Um and there's two brilliant ongoing jokes in the game that I think are two of the funniest things of the year. One of them involves a robot that has to put signs up as his job, and the other one involves a decaf coffee machine, which if you know the reference of all the little the logs that you read in the backstory of why a coffee machine bit is funny, it's because of Hi-Fi Rush. It's so brilliant. And I don't know why it's funny to me, but it's just so goofy. And I think it's just a mix of everything I like in a game. It was a surprise. It's well done. I was really emotionally invested, and I'm just a big music guy, so some of the music is really gnarly. There's 9 Inch Nails in there. Shout out to Hi-Fi Rush, Tango.
Hi-Fi Rush is a great game. It is one of my runner-ups. Um, and just genuinely like shocking, came out of nowhere. Um, Lots of fun combat and gameplay. Music's fantastic. Uh, Genuinely something that you wouldn't expect to get made anymore. And it's coming from a studio that said, we make really hardcore games. Here's our next hardcore one, and it's just this goofy shit. It's great. Voice acting's great as well for the English cast. Robbie Damon, always a star, and of course Erica Lindbeck. We stand. Yeah, Hi-Fi Rush is one of my runner-ups. Another one of my runner-ups would be actually Spider-Man 2. Again, it does some things that are much better than the first game. The traversal is some of the best traversal that's been ever put to a video game. I think that, again, with the storytelling they do, some aspects are amazing and some aspects don't last as long. Last is hot, I should say. Combat stellar. Again, it's mainly what they use with the world is great. And what works. What works. Another one of my runner-ups, I would say. Excuse me. Super Mario RPG. I talked about it a little bit. It's so fucking good. And as a starter RPG for anyone of trying to get into it, it's perfect. It is perfect because you have something as simple as Mario, just throwing it into an aspect of here's some turn-based combat, and it just makes sense, and you get it. But these characters are interesting, and this adventure they have to go on to get the 7 stars to save the Mushroom Kingdom and help make dreams again. It's so fucking weird. The bosses are interesting, and you get fucking Boomer. I believe his name is Boomer. Oh, he's so fucking interesting with character. He's a little Viking dude that shows up. He's so weird and funny. I love him. The character interactions as well, because of course you have Peach and Bowser on your team. So the interactions you get from fucking Bowser being on your team and Peach interacting with each other, it's really a great time. My final runner up, and so what decided between my game of the year and my runner up was I decided to do a playthrough of each because I had only beaten the games once, and as I was busy doing a bunch of other things, I said, "Fuck it, I'll throw another game and I'll follow a replay into the mix for both these games." Believe it or not, my game of the year, I did not finish the replay through because I played through it enough that I was like, "Yes, this is my game of the year." But I did finish a whole playthrough, and it was close in some aspects, but we'll get into the game of the year in a second. But my runner-up is Resident Evil 4 Remake, believe it or not.
Right. I'm fucking right. I know I'm going to be fucking right. I know I'm going to be fucking right.
Oh my god.
Know it.
Resident Evil 4 Remake is fucking stellar. I think it is. Calm down. We haven't gotten to that yet. I think that
here we go.
I think the gameplay is excellent. I think what they do with Ashley is great. The developments with Luis, a better understanding of with Krauser. It's better than the original game. I'll say that flat out. I think it's better than the original one. But also saying that Resident Evil 4, the original one, is still worth playing. Like, you have reason to play both versions. I just think that remake is so much better. There's so much more to do. The speed running option is still a thing. I had to get I got the trophy for beating it less than 8 hours. Fuck me, I guess. I decided to just speed through it. There's fun challenges. The costumes are great. I just think it's a great game. I don't know. Comparing it to Resident Evil 2 Remake, I don't know which one I think I like more of the remakes. But goddamn, Resident Evil 4 Remake, so fucking good. Anyway, my game of the year. Brian, now you can start freaking the fuck out. If you would have told me at the beginning of the year what my game of the year for this year would have been, I probably wouldn't have said this game. Fuck it. I'll just say what it is. It's Alan Wake 2. Brian was right. See, I was right and you were right.
But you know what, though? It's like, I know I didn't do a great job, but like, I remember being like, okay, I need to kind of find my way to word the games I'm playing. And with you, it was like, I got the vinyl for this. Oh, look at this. Oh, Alan Wake. And I'm like, I wonder if Alan Wake 2 is your game of the year.
With years, it was, I know it was going to either be Cocoon or Hi-Fi. After you playing Cocoon, that's why I was like, okay, because I didn't know about freaking what's its name. Yeah, that one. But I had a feeling it was more leaning towards Hi-Fi because you kept talking about how like it just stuck with you. That's why. Alan Wake 2. Well, I guess we'll talk about Alan Wake. Alan Wake 1 we didn't really talk about in 2010. But I love Alan Wake 1. It's combat fucking sucks ass. I'll tell you that. But the story and the characters, I think, are great. Alan Wake 2 fixes the combat problem. Now, it's not perfect, I'll be honest. I do think the combat in Resident Evil 4 is actually better. But Alan Wake 2, what it does is very interesting because, Remedy is like, hey, listen, we love Alan Wake. We want to keep telling this weird fucking story about this guy who just gets sucked into this world where just things don't make sense. He's trying to figure writing his way out of the story and nothing's working. And now let's just pick it up 13 years later. Not their intention, of course, but let's make it work 13 years later. And the Dark Place is up to its old schemes. It's bringing in new people. In Alan Wake 2, you don't play as just Alan Wake. The only footage you are seeing is of Alan, though, because I'm not saying I don't want to spoil Saga, but I feel like to get the vibe of Alan Wake, I'm showing off the Alan Wake sequences because it's like, this is Remedy's first horror game, as they like to call it. Alan Wake 1 wasn't scary. It was interesting what they would do with their horror elements, but it wasn't, horror. This game's fucking terrifying. So your first introduction is you're brought in as Saga Anderson. You're an FBI agent with your partner, Alex Casey. Now, Brian, I don't know if you remember the name of Alex Casey. It's very important. Alan Wake, his detective novels that he wrote was on a character named Alex Casey. The FBI agent has nothing to do with that. He just so happens to be named Alex Casey. But they go and they investigate this murder that happened in Bright Falls. Turns out that murder was the FBI agent in Alan Wake 1. Agent, I can't remember his name at the top of my head. It starts with an H. But you're going there to investigate, and that's when things start picking up with the horror aspects. You're going through, and all of a sudden, dead bodies are becoming alive. Your friend Sean Ashmore, shout out Sean Ashmore, he's the sheriff of the town, disappears. Gone. You're like, what? And then all these shadowy figures are starting to come up, and they start like coming at you, and you hear like whisperings of like things going on in the area. Deerfest, Bright Falls. And you're just like, I don't like this. I'm uncomfortable. But all you have again is your trusty flashlight and whatever you have to shoot. Mainly a pistol with Saga. Alan, he uses a revolver, but also you can get a shotgun. Saga gets a crossbow, which is fucking insane. Alan, they took away the nail gun from American Nightmare. R.I.P. the nail gun. He gets a shotgun. He also gets a rifle. But Saga eventually gets through her arc, and then you eventually get to figure out Alan's part in the story. It's in the name, Alan Wake. You should expect to play him. You go through his adventures in Dark Place. So Saga is in Bright Falls doing all this stuff. The Dark Place for Alan is this wide open area of New York City, but it's very corrupted. New York City, is full of bright lights normally and shining and all this shit. No, this place is dark as shit. There's very little street lamps and things like that. All you have is your flashlight mainly, and Alan's new tool is the angel lamp, where it can manipulate light sources so it can suck in light and then it can give light to the area to either make like a safe haven or to open up a pathway that you weren't able to do. So Alan's exploring this area, trying to figure out a way out of the Dark Place, because that's the whole objective. Meanwhile, the whole time you're learning much more information about what's been going on in the real world. What happened to Alice? Because, the whole objective of Alan Wake 1 was we got to save our wife from the Dark Place. What happened to Alice after that? And what's going on with this character, Mr. Scratch? We kind of got a tease of Mr. Scratch in American Nightmare, kinda. it was a very interesting way they had it, where he was like this evildoer con man taking over Alan Wake in the real world. They don't really do that with Mr. Scratch here in Alan Wake 2. He is genuinely this murderous entity that just wants to go on a killing spree. I'm telling you, when you start seeing Mr. Scratch come up, it is scary. The facial expressions that he's given off. No, thank you. I'm good. Very spoopy. Saga and Alan both have different hub worlds in a sense too. So instead of having they do have a traditional like pause menu, of course, but inside of each of their minds, Saga has this mind place where she has this whole clue board set up where she's able to mentally investigate people by deeping into their thoughts and asking them what's going on. It's really weird to explain it, but when you see it in action, you're like, okay. But it keeps track of what's going on with the story, so you can go back and follow through on what you need to do. Alan has the writer's room. So in the middle of the writer's room, he's got his typewriter, as he has. And on the side, he has a chalkboard. When Alan enters a specific area, there is a scene that pops up. Okay, this is the scene of the area. You find out more information, and as a writer, you want to change what's happening in the scene. So a little prompts will be on the bottom, and you select what prompt you want when you find out what prompt you need to change the scene. So he uses his typewriter to change the environment of the dark place. And so you get a little bit more information about what's going on in this building, what's being corrupted, or something just to scare the shit out of you, as I like to see from time to time. I was not expecting to fully engross myself in the world of Alan Wake like previous. Again, I love Alan Wake 1, but it's not something that I think back of like super fondly. Again, mainly because the only thing I remember really fondly about Alan Wake 1 is how terrible that combat is. This one, I'm sucked into the lore of the characters. I'm sucked into this unraveling mystery. Again, it's not a lake, it's an ocean, Brian. You know, as is famously said by Alan Wake at the end. What do you mean by that, Alan? So we get to kind of expand on that. I also want to give a quick shout out to the old gods of Asgard, poets of the fall, and in general to Sam Lake hiring a bunch of different artists in the Finland area, Swedish area, and things like that. The music in this game, like the original concept music, fucking amazing. So every ending of Saga's chapter has a song that relates back to what's going on in the plot. So not only is it just a banger of a song, but it's like, okay, this is the emotion of what we're feeling right now. I have a personal couple favorites. This is coming directly from the Alan Wake 2 album. We'll talk about Old Gods of Asgard in a second. Wide Awake, Lost at Sea, and Dark, Twisted, and Cruel. Those are my three favorites. Again, all these songs are available to listen to right now. And again, it's not that you need to know what's going on in the game, but what you know is going on in the plot wise makes the music so much better too. There's only one song on there that's not really known what's going on about it, and that's Night Springs. But we're hoping with the DLC they explain on that. Old Gods of Asgard, though, they came back with a couple new songs. They didn't just come out with one, because Alan Wake 1, Children of the Elder God, that was a big sequence. It was kind of interesting. You know, you put on this stage show with the music blasting and things like that to help fight off the goons with the light. Pretty cool. They didn't do anything for Quantum Break because they didn't know what the heck was going on with that. But then go to Control. You know, slightly ties into the Alan Wake universe. They have a song in Control. I don't want to spoil that because Brian has not finished Control yet. A 14-minute song, technically. The sequence itself takes about 30 minutes, but the song by itself is about 14 minutes long, called Herald of Darkness. At the Game Awards, they played a small snippet of it. Small snippet of it. That sequence is one of the best gaming moments that I've had. It's my gaming moment of the year. And I don't understand how Remedy just thinks of these ideas to use with music and artistically with their product to explain a story, but also have your combat in it and, you know, how your characters react to it and things like that. I don't know what goes on in Sam Lake's head. Clearly, he was doing something with his degree before he decided to get into video games that he said, I have some ideas that could work. But Herald Darkness, my God, one of the best. I was going to potentially make that the gameplay footage, but that's something you need to experience on your own. It is genuinely something you're like, oh shit, this is really fucking cool. One other thing. I like that they gave you the option of choice. You didn't have to, after a certain point, they say you could play either Saga's story or Alan's story, or you could switch between back and forth. You're not subjected to a linear path. Now, eventually their stories will intertwine at the end. So you will have to finish, when you finish one, you'll have to finish the other, and then you can continue on with the plot. But I like that you're like, okay, you're not subjected to being stuck with Saga. You're not subjected to be stuck with Alan if you don't want to be. Overall, I was just shocked that, you know, Remedy finally did it. They made it into my Game of the Year list finally, Brian. They did it. They made something truly amazing and special. It's something that you know, again, I don't think about Alan Wake 1 that much, but now I have a deeper appreciation of it more. I truly am so excited to see what they do next with Alan Wake, because of course they announced that they were doing an AMC show with AMC, so they have a higher tier studio, you know, to help them out to produce this television show. They are still doing updates to the game. Of course, they announced they had a new game plus, which came out with a new ending. There are plenty of secret endings still out there. They just announced today, for God's sakes. Well, we were talking about this earlier. They have chapter select, which is awesome. Something that Spider-Man 2 still can't seem to fit in for some fucking reason. Go out and play it. I'm telling you, it's worth your time. It's not too expensive. It's $60, you know. Again, we're still hoping for that physical edition. But even still, it is still worth your time. Get sucked into this world. Get creeped the fuck out. Learn to, you know, understand the creativity that Remedy does, because this is Remedy at full display right here. What do we have to look forward to for 2024, Brian? Not much, I'm gonna be honest.
I mean, we already know what I've been looking forward to forever now. That's finally coming out this year. The most revolutionary walking simulator in video games, Hellblade 2.
Mine happened to be coming out around the same time because I don't really know what else is really coming out personally. But it's kind of tied because, you know, biases, I guess. Persona 3 Reload, which comes out literally this weekend when this video drops. And at the end of the month, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Part 2, baby. Out of 3 parts. Dear fucking Lord. I'm very curious what they're going to fucking do with that shit. Now, Brian, is it going to be a year until we do this again? Or, you know, I mean, I'm fine waiting a year for 2024.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the plan. Like I said, we started at 2000. We got all the way here to 2023. 2024 will probably be end of the year, early next year. And who knows, maybe if we're bored and we actually catch up on so many more games, maybe we'll just go back again. and we'll go to maybe the year we were born,
I-
up till 99.
Who knows? Maybe we'll end up being like, we retract everything about 2023. You're all right. It's Baldur's Gate 3. Next on to our lives.
We're idiots. But I will say, these aren't going to come out for a little bit, but we're going to do a tier list of every game we have said is our game of the year. We're going to rank every single one of them in order, but we're not going to do it in like a rank 'em like Channel BK fashion. We're gonna do tier lists, and let me tell you, I think I'm way too excited.
How these categories are gonna go, Brian has specifically said we're not doing it until we're ready. And I'm not saying,
because the plan is we're gonna let these videos sit for a bit because there's a lot of them, and I think they're gonna obviously spoil every single year. So I think we're gonna let time sit. We're gonna relax for a little bit now that these are done, and then we're gonna do some special game of the year cast videos, which are our tier list.
what was your favorite game of 2023? Let us know in those comments down below. Was it Baldur's Gate 3 like everyone else? Was it something maybe we probably should have kept an eye on? Something lower, indie, Was it Spider-Man 2? Because
Or a normie.
yeah. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. We can understand it if you like Spider-Man 2 that much. We just have higher standards here at the Warren Risk. Like, comment, subscribe.
Yeah. And check out every single game of the year cast because we put out a shit ton of them.
But on that note, toodaloo.
Hello.